Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a bit of a follow-up video on the M1GP bag. I'm going to show you some of the reproduction bags that I have. I only have a couple, so this isn't a definitive list of every reproduction one you can get, but I thought that might help you, especially if you're in the UK, as these are a couple of the brands that are very common here in the UK. So I'll show you some of the details on the reproduction, and I'll get the original up so you can see where they've been done properly and where they've been done wrong. So let's make a start. Right, so this is a combat serviceable M1 ammunition bag. This is something you can get from Soldier of Fortune in here in the UK, and these are very cheap. This is by far price-wise the cheapest one you can get, I believe. I think they're like £15 or something like that. Really cheap. Might have that wrong. It might have gone up since I got it. But either way, this is the sort of thing that a lot of people are now only just getting into doing impressions and stuff like that is going to have. And it's not too bad for the price. If we bring up to the camera here so you can get a closer look, you can see that the pattern on it is quite good. There's a good amount of strength in these. I've used one of these as a shoulder bag quite a lot, and it's held up fairly well. I mean, you start to get bits here tear where the sling pulls on it when you're using it as a shoulder bag all the time if you've got a lot of weight in it. So if you're really loading one of these up, then you ought to be a little bit careful. But they aren't too bad. You can see they've got the typical reproduction shiny black on them, which does wear off and go rusty after a while, but that's okay because all the original stuff is like that. But these have one big problem. Well, they have a couple of problems. The colour isn't too bad, but let me get an original up here. But you can see, as with most reproduction stuff, it is more yellow than it should be, and that seems to be pretty common for them. I know these are old and they fade, but the reproduction stuff is a lot more yellow than the original ones are. And the other problem you get with them, especially the cheaper ones, is they bleach in the sun. Now, the Combat Serviceable I've had for about a year. That's done a fair few events, and these haven't been too bad in terms of bleaching. But I do have some other Combat Serviceable bits, like a musette bag, and they've turned that horrible banana yellow, which just looks abysmal. So you ought to be careful. I did give these a bit of a soak in some tea bag water, just to dull them down a little bit, just to help prevent that yellowing, and I did that as soon as I got them. So that might be something worth considering, though again, that doesn't make them the correct colour or anything like that. It just kind of dulls them down a little bit and seems to help with the bleaching slightly. But the big problem with the Combat Serviceable one is how flimsy it is. Now, these have both got 30 cal tins in them already, so look, it's like it's got a nice shape. I mean, I know it looks a bit weird at the front here. I think these aren't quite the right size, the top of them, so you get this weird look to it. If you look at them compared, you can see this one just kind of crushes down at the front here, which looks a bit rubbish. But the big problem is if you take the can out, so if you have it how you would most of the time, just as a bag, if I take the can out of the original one, you can see that's still kept its shape, that's stiff, the canvas is nice and thick, so you don't have to worry about it. If I take the bag out of this one, I say take the can out of this one, you can see it flops down straight away, and that's basically, there's no sturdiness to it. That's just a floppy bag now. It can't keep its shape at all, and that's one of the big downsides of these, that if you're going to use them without an ammo can in them, most of the time they're just going to crunch up like that, and they're going to look pretty rubbish. So for the Combat Serviceable bag, my two main criticisms are the colour isn't right, but reproduction stuff, there really isn't a lot that is. It can go a funny yellow if you leave it in the sun too long, but I haven't seen one that's bleached white yet, which is an improvement over some of the other brands. The quality of the manufacturer and in terms of strength isn't too bad unless you put an excessive amount of weight in it and using it constantly. I mean, I know I've torn a bit on one of mine, but I used that for going out on walks as just a shoulder bag for nearly a year, and that held up not too bad for the price. Keep in mind these are cheap. But the flap here is a bit wrong, it's just not quite the right size, so it looks weird even with the can in it, and it will flop about like that, and just, yeah, that bit's not great. So that's the Combat Serviceable bag. Now I'll bring up another brand, a K-Canvas one. Now this one's going to look a bit odd. Can you see this one is very green. Now this was originally a khaki one, and as you see here, that's got a lot of rigidity to it, that's nice and stiff. However, that's not because that's the way it came. This was just as floppy as the Combat Serviceable one, but the reason that's now rigid is because this one bleached so badly, and the K-Canvas ones are in general bad for bleaching. This bleached so badly that I considered it completely unusable. It looked useless. So I was trying to find ways of correcting the colour, and what I did with this is I got a couple of coats of a coloured boot polish with some model paint mixed into it, and I was trying to get the right size tone to be like an OD7. Didn't quite pull it off. It looks okay on the camera here, but in reality that's not quite right. It's good enough for something like airsoft, but the point is you shouldn't have to be doing that. They bleach almost instantly, the ones that I've had from K-Canvas. The strap material's fine, it's just this bit, and if I open this up, you can see kind of even the top of it, even the inside of it, sorry, when that's been open, you can see how white that is in there. So the whole bag was that colour, that white colour. That's just completely just bleached everything out of it, and that is a serious problem with a lot of the K-Canvas bags, so be wary. If I look about here for a second, see this old musette bag? This is a K-Canvas musette bag that's been extremely heavily used, and I've tried to weather it and dull it down with all sorts of dirt, and this has also been given the tea bag water treatment to try and make it not white. And as you can see, even with all that, if you spin it around, you can see kind of the remnants of an original tone. But this was white. This bag had basically gone completely white, and you can see how bad it is now, even with the weathering. And that GP bag was exactly the same. So build quality wise, the K-Canvas one is a bit better, but it's got a terrible bleaching issue, and the Combat Serviceable ones don't be so bad for the bleaching issue. So yeah, in terms of their actual construction, they're both pretty good. I mean, they're never going to be 100%, but if you've got like the straps here and the fittings, the reinforcement down here is all fairly good. I haven't really got any grumbles for them. It's just the colour is abysmal really on both of them. The K-Canvas one's even worse. I'll get rid of that. But the Combat Serviceable one has a bigger flopping, loose bag floppy issue. And you see it's just nothing to it. So you still really want to try and get hold of one of these, because it's way better. More better, as they say. So hopefully this has helped someone. This is just a quick me rambling on about these two brands. There is a third brand that you can get here in the UK, which is the Mil-Tec, and I have some Mil-Tec stuff. The Mil-Tec stuff tends to be a lot better. It's still not 100%. You can see differences in like the wax put together and things like that, but they are the best of the bunch, I think. But the problem with the Mil-Tec stuff is they cost so much that by the time you've got yourself a Mil-Tec bag, you might as well say screw it and just go and find an original somewhere, even if you have to pay more. It's not going to be loads of money more. Like if you pick up some Combat Serviceable ones for £10–15 and they're a bit rubbish, you think, alright, fair enough. But if you spend £30–35 on a Mil-Tec bag, although it's the best of the Reproductions as far as I'm concerned, even though I don't have none, they're so expensive that you might as well just find an original one, because they're not that hard to come by. So that's my thoughts. So hopefully that's helped a few of you, and I'll catch you next time.